Now, if you landed on this video, I want you to know, I've been there, man. I've been out here fat and sloppy. I used to be skinny fat, and I was able to get out of it and get ripped. And I want to teach you how to do that too, but more importantly, how did you get here in the first place? If you stick around to the end, I'm gonna give you a framework that, I use myself to go from fat and sloppy with a big belly to being ripped, and actually teach it to hundreds and hundreds of guys too. But we gotta talk about how we landed in this spot in the first place. I want you to think about building your body like building a house. Let's say you had a custom house. You built your custom blueprint with an architect, and you was like, hey man, I want to build this whole thing from scratch. You take that perfect blueprint and you give it to a group of contractors, and then you say, contractors, I want y'all to go out, I want you to build me this motherfucking house. And you send them out to the project site, everything's perfect. But there was one thing you forgot, the bricks. You didn't even send the crew out there with the raw material to actually construct this house from. So you ain't getting no house. You gonna get a bunch of angry contractors who are gonna eventually leave the project, and you're gonna end up disappointed. And that's the same with your body, guys. If you don't give it the nutrients, if you don't give it the bricks, if you don't give it the raw materials that it needs, you ain't gonna have no muscle definition. And so what is that as it relates to your fitness goals? Simply put, protein, or better yet, the amino acids that you get from protein. A lot of people overthink it, but basically it works like this. When you work out, when you strength train, when you send a signal to your body to adapt and have muscle definition, all you have to do is make sure that you give it what it needs to actually put that signal into action through the recovery process. When you go lift some weights in the gym, you ain't building no muscle in the gym. If you out here, one of them bar stars that's hanging on the bars, doing all these wacky calisthenics, trying to be Spider-Man. If you do that shit, you're not building the Spider-Man muscle while you're hanging upside down. No, you're doing it in the recovery process when you give your body the proper amount of protein. When you break down a muscle from exercise, you initiate a process called muscle protein synthesis. For all my dorks out there that like the sciencey shit, this is basically when your body's actually taking the amino acids from protein that I mentioned earlier and converting it into new muscle, or even retaining the muscle that you have. And so your job is that when you send that signal to your body through strength training to adapt, you gotta give it the proper amount of amino acids and protein within the window of time that muscle protein synthesis is going on. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but when you actually break down your muscles, the muscle protein synthesis process lasts anywhere from 24 all the way up to 72 hours, depending on different signals from your hormones, depending on your genetics, depending on a lot of different factors. So as long as you get your amino acids in, you get that protein in, within the time that muscle protein synthesis is most elevated, you're good. So if you don't get it within like an hour of your workout, like some of these supplement companies want you to believe that you need, you're good. As long as you get it within that window of time I just gave you, it's all good. Now, how much protein do you need? It depends on the person. Protein is tied to the amount of lean mass that you have on your body. Most people who've looked into fitness at all in any capacity will say that you get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. But I think that's actually the wrong advice. You want to base your amount of protein on lean muscle mass. If there's a way for you to get your body fat percentage, that's how you get most accurate results. Let's say you went and got like a DEXA scan or an in-body scan, the charts, or even the bathroom scale one, the body composition in the bathroom, even those will tell you kind of roughly what your lean body mass is, and then you just match whatever that number is 1 for 1 with grams of protein. I think an even easier way to do that is figure out what your target calories are in relation to your goal, and then just pick a percentage of grams of protein in what's called a macro ratio. Now, I don't want to put you guys to sleep in this video, so we're going to make the discussion around this super simple. Calories are what you actually consume in total of the nutrients that you eat. And within your calories, you have 3 different macronutrients. We've been talking about protein a lot, but there's also carbohydrates and there's also dietary fats. And think about the macros like the 3 legs to a stool. If the legs to the stool are in balance, you can sit on it comfortably and not fall on your ass. But if there's one leg longer than the other one, pause, right? Or other ones that are short, then you ain't got no motherfucking stool. It's not gonna be seatable, it's not gonna be stable, you're gonna fall on your ass. That's what a lot of you guys are doing right now when it comes to nutrition. You are over consuming one of the 3 macros or under consuming one of the 3 macros or multiple ones, and that's why your body look out of balance. I always tell my clients, random actions get you random results. So random eating gonna have you out here with a real random ass body. If you wanna get off that random path, here's how you do it. Get you a calorie goal. I made a whole video on this. You wanna target your calorie goal around your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. That number tells you how many calories your body burns on its own. And then what you do from that is you determine your goal. So we're talking about muscle definition. Let's say you fat as hell. You wanna actually create a calorie deficit so you can peel back the layers of fat, and then in that process strength train so you can send a signal to your body to keep muscle, maybe even build muscle in that process. And then that's gonna ensure that you'll see your muscle eventually. You might be on the opposite end of the spectrum too. You might be out here wanting to build some muscle. You gotta know your BMR so you can create a surplus of calories, consume more than you burn, and then from that be able to actually build enough muscle to see it. Wherever you're at, you have to determine based off your BMR. You can reference that video for more information. But basically, let's say you found your calorie deficit number. I'm gonna give you guys the golden formula, the golden ratio of the 3 macros. I like to tell my clients, if you're looking to lose fat, you go on what's called a 40-30-30. What the fuck does that mean, Coach Corey? I got you, don't worry. 40% of your calories consumed in protein. And then the other 2/30s is relatively carbs and fats. Why does this work so well? Well, if you're looking to be in a deficit, which is just a, sort of a fancy way of saying you're looking to lose some fat and you're looking to consume less and burn more, you want to be most satisfied. Protein has the unique ability to keep you satiated and full. It has also what we call the highest thermic effect. What's that mean? That just means that you burn more calories when you consume more protein. And as we just mentioned, it's the bricks to making sure that you build that motherfucking house. It's gonna help to recover those muscles so that you actually can build, maintain, and sustain muscle mass. And on the other side of that, the more muscle you have, and this is the most important part, faster your metabolic rate is. And so you'll actually be able to keep that fat off long term. And that's what most people want. Most people don't want to lose fat and then get fat again and have to do this whole process over again. No, you want to lose it and just be done with that big ass belly for good. That's the protocol for fat loss. Now, the muscle building side of things, I'm gonna save that for its own video. If you want me to do a video on how to build more muscle, type in the comments, build more muscle, right? And I'll make that video. We'll just keep it there to just keep this shit short. So now you got your calories based off your BMR and you get your calories from the deficit, right? And then I like to make it simple for myself by just putting those calories into a calorie counter, and most of them have a section where you can actually customize the percentage of the ratio of macros. So you can tell the calorie counter, I want 40% protein, I want 30% carbs, I want 30% fats, and then it'll tell you how many grams that is per day, and then you just aim to hit those targets. Now, if you stick around to the end, I'll give you a free resource that teaches you exactly how to do that. But the next obstacle that you guys are all gonna run into and have to address is how do you get more protein? Because protein is the most important macronutrient as it relates to this whole business of seeing muscle mass and actually seeing muscle definition. But it's also the most challenging to get because just in modern society here in America, you're not gonna have an overabundance of high protein options at your disposal unless you do these things that I'm about to teach you next. So here's 5 ways to get more protein in. Number 1 is have a variety of different protein options in the house. You can do a speed protein, which is like protein snacks, protein bars, protein shakes, whether it's powdered or pre-made shakes on hand. You can have some tasty proteins, like proteins that, have a little more dietary fats like steak, salmon, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Those are some of my favorite ones that give you a good ratio of protein versus fat, but they taste good because dietary fats actually hold flavor better. And even lastly, just having a lean protein that can give you a lot of protein really quickly without a lot of dietary fats. Because once you start tracking, you'll start to see that if you give yourself too many options that have an abundance of different macros all in one, it becomes difficult to balance out this stool that I was telling you guys about. So the lean proteins, chicken, white fishes, tuna, turkey, things of that sort. So having all of those on hand and a variety in home helps you actually hit your protein, because all you got is protein options that are surrounding you in your environment. The next tip is use the divide the day method. Basically, take whatever you find your protein goal is and divide that by the number of times that you plan to actually eat that day. So what does that look like in practice? Let's say you got a 200 protein goal, guys. You got to get 200 grams of protein by the end of the day. And you just think, how many times do I plan to eat today? Is it going to be 2 times? Is it going to be 3 times? Is it going to be 4? And then you just divide your total number of grams of protein by the amount of meals that you want to eat and target that each meal. So 200 grams of protein, if I plan to eat 4 times in a day, that means every time I sit down to eat, I need at least 50 grams of protein. And so now it's just a game of, how do I get 50 grams? Is it 2 scoops of a whey protein powder? Is it 2 high protein bars? Is it 10, 12 ounces of chicken? I don't know, but you're basically putting together sort of a plan to adhere to 50 grams every single time that you consume some protein. Tip number 3 is what I call my PUP method. This is pull up with protein. So this is basically where wherever you go, you have protein on hand. You know, I travel with like a little satchel now, like a little man bag. If I'm looking to hit a protein target every single day, you know, what do I have in there? Protein bars, maybe some protein shakes. You know, go places with like high protein items with you. Some people go to events, complain that they don't have enough protein there for me to hit my goals. Maybe you pull up with like a little portion of protein that's been already pre-prepared. Pull up with your own protein. Number 4 is something I call the S2S method. This is called the shake to solid method. So basically, you have 2 shakes and 2 solid meals in a day, and you'll hit your protein almost every single time. Let's use that same example that I just used a second ago. 200 grams of protein. If I have like my first meal of the day is like a shake with 50 grams of protein, then I get my next meal of the day is a solid meal with at least 50 grams of protein. Then I do another shake and another solid. You add it all together, that's 200 grams of protein that I've got total, 2 shakes and 2 solid meals. Shake to solid. You can do it with any amount of protein, and just as long as you're targeting a significant amount in each sitting, it makes it damn near impossible to lose when hitting your protein. And last but not least, the 5th tip on getting more protein in your diet is the double entree method. If you're going to any restaurant, whether it be fast food, sit down, wherever the make sure you target to get double entree, double meat, pause, double up on the protein servings that you get. I can't remember the last time I ate at a restaurant and only got 1 protein portion. Most of the time, like let's say I'm going on a date with my girl, what I'll do is I'll order steak and salmon. A lot of you fat motherfuckers watching this, you'll get some type of protein source and some carb on the side and wonder why you always big as hell. And it's because you're just over consuming those other macros that we talked about in abundance, the carbs and the fats. You out of balance. What you can do to put yourself back in balance, make sure that you're satiated, full, you're fueling your metabolic rate, you're recovering from your workouts, is instead of having like a carb source or a fat source on the side, no, just 2 protein sources. And then maybe a vegetable for some fiber to help with digestion. But something like the double entree method, you know, getting double servings of high protein options wherever you go has been something that really just makes it that much easier for me over the years to maintain a solid physique, always hit my protein numbers, and then also for my clients too, to help them as well. Now, a lot of you guys are gonna listen to these suggestions and you're gonna think, man, this is extreme, Corey. This is too much. I don't know if I can handle this. And the reason you saying that is because you soft. And right now, you can't see yourself stepping outside of the way that you currently do things to do things a different way. And I want you to know that's normal. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable with the idea of doing something new, because if you knew better, you would do better. And so the only way to get out of that is to open yourself up to the idea of change and be willing to be a little bit unreasonable from other people's perspective. I remember talking to a friend of mine who's like a beautiful girl. She does part-time modeling and she just sort of is all always getting invited to like the nicest things. And she told me this story about LeBron James, right? You guys know who LeBron is, right? He's one of the GOATs of basketball. She's been to the infamous LeBron parties. Now, some of you guys don't know this, but LeBron's parties are a masterclass in controlling your environment. What happens when you go to these parties, based off her references, basically at the door, you gotta check in your phone and they take your phone. You can't go in there with it because LeBron don't want no motherfucking proof of any of the wild shit that goes on the inside ever leaking out to the public. And so, yeah, you may be a hot girl going up in there, but you ain't gonna be in there recording it with your lady friends and potentially getting somebody caught up. LeBron is a master at controlling his environment. And because he does that, he's able to not only be able to let his hair down, or whatever hair he has left, but kind of chill out and not have that concern that something is gonna leak. But also too, because of that, because he controls his environment, he's able to command things at his own will to get the outcomes that he desires, whether it's in his personal life, whether it's in his career, whether it's in business. He does this in every single facet of his life, and that's why he has such excellent results. And that's all I'm encouraging you guys to do. Is this shit sounds weird, but just get better at controlling your environment, so much so that the things around you start to shift and change, and then ultimately on the other side of it, you become what? The best version of yourself. In the link in the bio, I'm giving you guys what I call